Many years ago, when I was a teacher, I had the opportunity to teach in an open classroom school, and I had the opportunity to loop with my class. Everybody knows what that means, right? So I had the same students from 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. And in that group of students, I saw the most unbelievable potential. These are students who came from a very, very poor area in New York, and I saw real brilliance. And at that time, a principal of the school said, we should start a gifted program here. And she told me to talk to the psychologist in the school, and I had no training in gifted education at the time. But I went to the psychologist, and he said, you know, Lois told me you want to start this gifted program. He said, I can't believe you're going to do that. And I said, why? And he said, you know there are no gifted kids in this school. Now, this is a direct quote, and at that time, and I was a very young teacher at the time, and I said, I am going to disprove to this psychologist about these students. And I decided to then get my doctorate. And I didn't know who I was going to study, but I know I wanted to disprove this myth about these wonderful children who might have been challenged by poverty, whose skin color was mine and darker. And I wanted to disprove it. So I happened, you know how God guides you when you really want to do something? And I was reading an educational journal, it was Educational Leadership, and I read about this man named Reuven Feuerstein. And what they said about Reuven Feuerstein was that he was an Israeli who many years ago had decided after the Holocaust that he was going to work to identify the potential of students who had been considered displaced Jewish children. They were children who had themselves been victims, who had lost their parents, who had gone to concentration camps, students who the world had thought just had lost all. And I started reading about this, and two things struck me. One is he said, there are two things about these children that I must show. One is that they are socioculturally deprived. Now, what does that mean? It struck me, because it didn't mean that they were missing the culture of the masses. Whose culture do you think he was saying they were missing? Their own culture. And how important knowing your own culture is to modify who you are. And I was thinking about my babies, my children. And then he said that intelligence is totally limitless, that the only thing that holds you back is the intent and the belief. And the belief to achieve became something that got very ingrained in me. And at that point, I said, I want to meet this man. I want to know who he is. I want to study his work. His work will be the premise for my doctoral dissertation. So I did not meet him first. I met people who were trainers in the United States. I decided I was going to study the Atlanta school system. Just things happen for you when you get guided in a way, and I met a woman who trained me, got me to the Atlanta school system, and what I was doing was identifying giftedness in students who were labeled low achievers. Many of you were just here with Joe Renzulli. I also at that time met Joe Renzulli and decided I would use his premise about giftedness to be the basis, but Reuven's work to be the tool to identify giftedness. And at that time, I was studying 25 students who all were in the bottom quartile in mathematics. And after going through instrumental enrichment for 3 years, all of them went above the 50th percentile, but half of them also then were eligible for the gifted and talented program based on their data. Now, when I saw that, that became the premise. That was my doctoral work. I still had not met Reuven, but this was my work. And then I started reading about the ability to move students even further. As I then developed, I came to the National Urban Alliance, and we use the concepts that are of Reuven's work. There are several of them, but the most important is the idea of mediation. What do you do to engage students in deep discussion, to actually see what they're thinking and set up the very explicit experiences that will move them through their cultural context so that they can think at higher levels and show you their potential. That's what grabbed me. That tests, the way that they are given, are static. They don't show you the potential of a child. They only give you a limited picture at a particular time and not under the best circumstances. They don't show the cognitive functioning. So I started learning very diligently about the learning potential assessment device, how you actually go through a learning test situation to engage the students, to be able to see literally how they're thinking, where the cognitive dysfunction is so you can address that cognitive dysfunction, and then give the right mediation to take students to higher level. Then there comes instrumental enrichment, which is the program after you have identified what the particular dysfunctions are. You can engage students in higher orders of thinking. You can give them the prerequisites so they can do astronomical work. That is what you are going to witness today. You are going to be able to, first of all, hear directly from Dr. Feuerstein. I keep calling him Reuven because he is, and everybody teases me because they say my husband should be jealous because he is the man with whom I am in love. And this is very true, and he knows that, and it's been many years. But it is with great pleasure that I am here to be able to go 25 years later after my particular study and just tell you that this is a man who has had over 2,000 research articles himself that he's written, many, many books, but more importantly, the lives that he still touches. He still makes time to test students himself. There is no other person like him, and it is with great honor that I introduce Dr. Reuven Feuerstein.